Welcome, viewing several. Here we are once again, getting up towards number 30, I think, in my little series, Hands Up, Who Loves a Train Set? Well, I do, because I've got about 30 of the things. Now, this is one I bought a while back. I got this from one of those auctions, like a proper auction house, and in the end it cost me more than, because I didn't understand fully about the commission and everything else, so but it's still worth it. It actually didn't come with any track, but what I did get in lieu of track was actually one of those Ford Thames van carriers with the 3 vans, a flatbed truck and some other Triang stuff that were in the box where the track would have been. So in the end it was an okay haul. Now what I'm going to do is I set it up with some track. I've got plenty of this track. I still need to clean a lot of it up, but I've cleaned up one oval of it now that will fit here on this desk. And this set was introduced in 1965 after Triang became Triang-Hornby, although the Blue Pullman model was launched before that, a couple of years before that, in 1963. I don't know if it was actually available as in a set then, but I actually rather like these sets because you get these wonderful box art on them, which I think is fantastic. And you know, I really like the box it comes in and everything. Now, you don't get a controller with these sets, but they're a nice compact box, and they're wonderful things to collect because, you know, it's only the size of a small board game or a jigsaw, and you can stick them on the shelf and when you're not using them. So I've got a couple of these. I've got the Midlander one as well, but there's not that many that come in this format, but this is kind of like my favourite era of Triang-Hornby, Triang Rovex Hornby, and yeah, so it's rather nice. So what else is there to say? Well, the livery changes in 1968 to yellow on the front, and then I think 1969 it went to blue and grey livery. Now, they made about 50,000 of these sets between 1965 and 1968, according to Pat Hammond's book, before they changed to the yellow front. So there's about 50,000 of these. There's always seems to be some for sale in various different conditions, but I've got this running pretty nice now, as we'll see when we run it. So there's one or two things, as we'll see when I open the box, but let's have a look inside, shall we, see what you get. Right, here we are inside the box, and you can see it's a rather splendid set. You've got the 3 cars here. You've got the power car, centre coach, and then the dummy car. And then you've got this loop of track, which is it's the Triang Super 4 track, which came in about 1965. Is more realistic than the system, the Series 3. I've shown this already, but I'm just going to. So this is this, and that's your Series 3, which was the earlier track, which I actually rather like, but you can see this looks a bit better. So there's not much more to say. I've sort of covered that in some other videos, so we'll just have a quick look at this. So this is you can see now. Can we see? This is the question. That one has the crest on the front. Now the power car's missing that, it's come off, but you can buy these transfers, reproduction, and you can see they have metal things to represent the little lamps in there. And we've got our centre car. Similarly, it's got some interior, which at the time was pretty good. A lot of coaches at this time were more or less bare inside. I think they did have some basic interiors. And then we've got the power car, which the transfers come off of the crest. But like I say, you can get those. Something I might do at some point is buy a sheet of reproduction ones, or even print some off. So again, this is the same as the the EMU in that it's very top heavy. You've got all the weight at the front, but it doesn't seem to be a problem. This is the Mark II power bogey, and it's exactly the same, that version with that little stud there, exactly the same as the one I showed recently on the Suburban EMU. And so the later DMU had the power bogey at the back, which sort of spread the traction out a bit better in the train. But to be honest, this doesn't really matter, it doesn't make a lot of difference. So yeah, I think this is the best livery of these variants. As I say, there's the later ones, there were some differences, and they had a yellow front, and even later than that they were kind of a grey with a blue on them, and a yellow front, which I didn't much like. But I think this is the nicest variant. So these, as I say, this would have been anywhere between 1965 and 1968. So yeah, there's not much more to say other than let's get her on the track and run it and see. It's now, I've done some work on it. I've serviced this bogey, and there was a lot of mechanical issues with the plastic being knocked about, and it just needed taking to bits and putting together and making sure everything was running freely. A lot of the time you find with these old bogies is in transit or somewhere they've been knocked, and they've popped out of the bearing holder, and they're not turning at all. So it's easily rectified, but it's one of them things you get caught out on, and I got caught out, and I was going around the track and it was making a hell of a squeaky noise. And then I realised this whole bogey needed just needed sorting out. The wheel was out, and the whole thing was pushed up into the body so that it wasn't turning, and now it's running absolutely brilliantly. So let's get her on the track. Actually, before I get her on the track, I'm just going to show you this catalogue entry. Cost £1. It came in this Midlander set, so I've shown that one already, which is this one. But this is the Pullman set from the similar era. Now I think these ones didn't come out till 1968, so but this goes to show that this is probably a later set, because the picture of the set in Pat Hammond's book didn't have any straights by the look of it, but it shows you here that you get 4 straights, which is what of the short straights, which is what I've kind of set it up with. And this is actually my test loop of Super 4, but there's no reason why it can't just live in here when I'm not using it. And I've got a whole bunch of track I'm going to clean up, so I'll clean up another set of this. I think I've got another 4 pieces like this condition, and I'll just clean up 4 bits, and I've got a whole bunch of these I'm going to clean up, so it'll have its own track separate from my Super 4 test loop. But yeah, you can see here it is, RS52 Blue Pullman train set. It says the same as the box, what you get in it. So yeah, there we go. That's it in the catalogue, and you can see from this that this is, I've got a few of these already I've shown in some of my other videos. So I got one of these, I've got one of those. Yeah, I've got this. I don't know if the B12 is in yet. I've got one of those. So yeah, there's a few of these. That's the Metcam that I showed recently in the little loop series, and I also have one of those that was in the same video. Yeah, I can't see the Suburban EMU here. I think that must have been, I think that was dropped in the mid-60s. So there we go, that's a nice look at that, and we'll get it on the track now. Right, here we are. Now, I have got a new light, which is a bigger one, so we'll see if that helps. We're on the track, we're on a loop of Super 4 track which just about fits on my desk. First radius. This is what you would have got with the set. Now my set didn't come with any track, as I probably explained, or I will do in the previous part, which I'm going to film later. But this is a nice loop. There was 4 pieces here of straight which were very poor condition, which I cleaned up using a Dremel and soap and water and so on. Seems to be running nice now. So those 4 pieces, I've got an enormous box of this track now, all very rusty. I think for some of it you can probably just clean off the top rust and then have it like weathered rusted track. It'll look quite cool, but we'll see. So anyway, I've got my background up that I use for my tiny loop videos. So let's start her off. Now in the catalogue, in the book about this, the Triang Part 2, I think it is, book, The History by Pat Hammond, it shows a picture of this set with no straights, but my box has got an inner box for straights, so, and I wasn't sure which radius it was, but when I put second radius up to it they wouldn't fit, so it is meant to go around first radius, and as you can see it does. So we'll get her up to speed slowly. This is running on Gauge Master controller as always, just because it's tiny and it fits on the desk. Full tilt. And down they come. Now this motor bogie is very, they've got the same arrangement in that dock shunter. It's just one of them, and it sparks like anything. But I gave this train a very good clean up and oiled it, and then there was a few things wrong with it, like the wheels needed reseating, and then the trailer coach had been screwed up too tight, and in transit these things get bashed about and they get knocked out of whack, so that wasn't running very well, and it just needed to be taken apart and put back together properly, that was all. So I'm going to run it backwards. Now it's a bit like, this is the same motor and bogie setup as the 2 sub or 4 sub, whatever you want to call it, EMU, electric suburban EMU thing. I showed that in one of my tiny loop videos. So what it means is when I go this way, it's all on this, it's pushing the whole thing, but it doesn't seem to be a problem, as we'll see. And obviously going backwards you get a different gap between the coaches, which is slightly smaller, but it doesn't seem to be a problem again. So this is running quite nice now. It's got that characteristic wobble on there, but that could be cured with a bit of weight in that front, in this dummy car. And we're up to full tilt. And then we'll come down a bit. Yeah, I think that's really rather nice. So I'm going to do some, now I've started doing this, I'm going to do some I'm going to do some closer shots to finish up. So we'll stop that and then let's get. No need to slow-mo this one because this is running this slow. another one. I'll probably cut most of this down anyway. There we go. Lovely.